first, what all of us in Ukraine, we felt it's a great sense of shock when we have to learn all new sounds connected with the sirens and shelling. And as one leader described very well this deep sense of shock, he said that he was so depressed that he went out of his home and literally vomited. The very next day, he and his team decided to open. He comes to his sense, and everyone in Ukraine has to do that. So on the very next day, they opened the church to become a shelter to host the people who were running from the war. And these pictures you see, they were made on second and third day of the war. And Innovista was the first agent who was able to equip them in order for them to do this wonderful job of rescuing people. On the left, you see a lady. Her name is Ira. As a family, they owned a car, 9-seat minivan. So they said with her husband, I can evacuate people. They live in a Poltava, which is 2.5 hours drive from Kharkiv, the second largest city in Ukraine, with many people willing to evacuate, but not being able to because of lack of transportation. People were waiting in this very basement in Kharkiv, sometimes 2-3 days in order to be evacuated. But very often people with children or disabled or sick people were not able to wait so long. Her personal record is 27 people fitting 9-seat minivan. Altogether, Ira and her husband evacuated over 1,000 people. And Innovista, with your help, were able to support them with helping with tires and diesel, which turned to be saved lives. Another challenge that we discovered is the fact that a lot of people facing post-war syndrome in Ukraine. A lot of people have witnessed bombing, and it's ruined their souls. So, with the help of Viva ministry in UK, Innovista translated, printed, and started to distribute a resource called Resilient Family. With the help of another ministry called Realis, we were able to arrange big online training for 95 mentors in order for them to get in their hand this training to be able to help people around Ukraine and even beyond Ukraine. Wonderful story. This lady, Victoria, was approached with a family who was totally in despair. They have 3 children, and youngest one, called Yeva, 6-year-old girl, was in such a depression that girl refused to eat. And parents didn't know what to do. So Victoria helped this family, going with them through the program, working with parents and with this girl. And praise the Lord that the girl was again back in conditions that she was able to eat and function normally. So altogether, you enable us to equip 61 churches across Ukraine and Moldova.
We've been working in Ukraine for 20 years. We've been working with leaders for 20 years. We've been growing a network of those leaders for 20 years. So when this phase of the war started, the network of leaders was already in place. We'd already talked to them to understand what was likely to be needed first, and we were able to respond quickly. And as Tolik described, as we've listened to these leaders, we've heard them describe the need for the way we support them to shift, and so we've been able to shift all the time, listening to local leaders. This network of leaders on the ground, which numbers hundreds across the whole of Ukraine, is guiding our response. We are privileged to work with leaders like this. This is a picture from Kharkiv. In October, Tolik and I were there. There's more of this team sort of round the corner. These leaders are an example of hundreds and hundreds who have served with amazing courage. They have paid a great cost. Some have paid with their lives. All are traumatized. Before this meeting, we had breakfast with another group of leaders, and they sat with us and described what they'd been through. And it was horrendous. And yet, they kept going back to rescue people, to feed people, to show them that they were not on their own. They have demonstrated remarkable resilience, but the truth is they are now exhausted. So a significant part of our next phase of work, which starts now as winter turns into spring, is that we're going to try and work with these leaders to help them replenish a bit. We're going to give opportunities for individual leaders and especially teams to get a short break, to get out of their immediate environment, to go to a place that's beautiful, where they will be well fed, where they will get spiritual and psychological support, and the chance just to regroup a little bit. Their resilience is key. And they've told us that they need the opportunity to decompress a little bit, to talk with each other, and to be supported by some professional help so that they can understand a little better of what's happened to them and prepare to go again, because they want to keep going in service of their communities. So we're going to help with that, starting in the spring. Something else that the war has revealed is a new generation of young leaders. The leaders have started popping up all over the place, like Ira, who you saw, who's with her husband, rescued 1,000 people in her van. Leaders have popped up everywhere. These are two that we met in a place called Katazhanka. This is Sergei and Alex Vitolik in Katazhanka. Katazhanka is very close to the border with Belarus. It was one of the first places occupied by Russian forces. And these two characters got out, but stayed close. Soon as the Russians left, and Tolik and I were there soon after, we saw the damage they'd done. Soon as the Russians left, these two guys came back. They turned the church behind them into a resource center for their community. And we stood in a series of rooms where they had created a pop-up doctor's surgery and pharmacy. Absolutely brilliant. These guys are typical young leaders. They have loads of energy, loads of creativity, and they also carry deep scars. So part of our next phase of work is going to be to invest even more intensely into this rising generation of young leaders. We're going to work with them through training and mentoring to develop the character and skill that is required for long-term servant leadership. We're going to help them so that their scars turn into strengths. We're going to help people like them to serve their communities, to demonstrate the hope of Jesus to those around them. We really hope this evening that you've got a glimpse into the difference your support has made so far. It has been extraordinary. Every exchange we have with leaders in Ukraine, they always say, please tell the people thank you. So on their behalf, thank you. Thank you for all you've given. Thank you for all the encouragement that you have been to these leaders as they serve their communities. And on their behalf, thank you very much.